Listen to this scary story that has happened to one of the hikers. 2014 trip to upstate New York, close to Downsville. Nate went to see his brother Aiden. Nate was hiking and climbing a narrow trail not far from his brother's home. This trail is in the middle of a very rural area and connects from time to time from one property to another. Nate's brother Aiden owns a small house and a barn up there, and occasionally Nate and other family members would go up to visit. This was in the late fall, so the foliage was already mostly orange and more than half of the leaves had fallen off the trees. When Nate was hiking, he never found anything suspicious. So it came as a surprise when Nate found a big duffel bag on the ground in the middle of the woods. The duffel bag appeared to be relatively new and didn't appear to be dirty, as if it had been sitting in the woods for a long time. However, there was a foul smell coming from the bag, like something was rotting inside. He knew, however, that he had to open the bag to see what was inside in case it actually could have been a person, because he was the bag, but before he could, he heard footsteps approaching from off the trail and a voice saying, "That's mine, please don't touch it." A large man in a dirty jacket and jeans was quickly approaching from the woods and grabbed the duffel bag off the ground. The two exchanged looks for a moment. Nate told the man he assumed the bag was forgotten by someone, and the man told him he was storing his kill from his hunt in the bag. Even though Nate isn't a hunter, he knew what standard to use a cooler for. Storing fresh kill, not a duffel bag of all things. This also wouldn't explain the foul smell so soon, as usually dead bodies only start to smell after a few days, not right after death. So he apologized and continued walking down the trail with a little more speed in his step. It's likely the man noticed Nate's nervousness, because he heard the duffel bag get dropped on the floor as he was walking away, but as he looked back, he didn't see the man anymore. Nate hesitantly continued down the trail, pulling out his phone to try to call his brother for an emergency pickup by the road, but he didn't have any reception in the woods, so he had to move forward and avoid running into that man again. But as he continued on, he kept hearing leaves crunching from behind him, and whenever he'd look back, the coast seemed clear. But eventually his fear of being followed became real, and he saw that man following him in. Without stopping, Nate began to run as quickly as he could along the trail. He didn't even turn around to look behind him, since he could hear the sound of leaves being crushed. Nate arrived at a property that appeared to be abandoned and had overgrown grass. Exhausted from running, he tried to enter the old house through the back door and was successful. Nate heard the rear door open again and heard heavy footsteps moving as he hid behind a mattress in the first bedroom he discovered. In a hurry, they went from room to room, and Nate could hear the man's heavy breathing from also being out of breath. The man's footsteps came into the bedroom just for a second and left right after. He didn't look under either of the two cuts. Nate heard the back door to the house open and slam shut again, but he laid under the cot for another half an hour, not taking any risks. He only got up when he realized it would be dark soon, and he needed to get to a road to call for help. He proceeded to leave the house and run down the dirt trail by the house that was most likely once used as a driveway, which led him to a road. From here, he eventually hitched a ride with a passing car who gave Nate a lift back to his brother's house, Aiden, where Nate would call the local police department and report his encounter. Given the severity of the case, police would show up to the house to get a more detailed description of the man's face, the location had happened, and other information, though it was never technically confirmed what was in that duffel bag. The rotting smell would already be clue enough, but the fact that the man so intently chased after Nate shows that he was hiding something that he didn't want any witnesses for, most likely dumping a dead body. Nate would most likely outsmart the killer.